Welcome to the Self-Growth Nerds podcast. I'm your host, Marie, a courage coach, creative soul, and adventure seeker. Since through hiking the Pacific Crest Trail in 2019, I'm on a mission to help you embrace your most confident self so you can achieve your dreams too. If you're eager for deep conversations, big questions, and meaningful connections, join me on the quest to discovering how we can create a more magical and memorable life. Hello, nerds! How are you? I'm doing so good. I'm smack in the middle of moving in with my partner. Basically, what we're going to do is I'm going to go to his place while we renovate my place. And when that's done, we're going to both move back in here and decorate the way that we love it. It's going to be a whole new beginning for the two of us, and we both have a really colorful, playful aesthetic, so it's going to be a lot of fun to make the place our own. I'm also smack in the middle of the enrollment period for Confident Nerd School, so if you haven't listened to last week's episode, it's my new group coaching program that's starting on June 18th. I'm really excited to meet the members in the group. It's going to be a small group, maximum 15, and we're going to be working closely together for 6 months, so all the way to the end of the year. And this is all about spending the second half of 2024 discovering who you are on the other side of fear. Who is the most courageous version of you? And what becomes possible in your life when you step into those shoes. There's a quote that I find super impactful. I don't know who it's attributed to, but I had it on a Post-it for so long. It reads, "True hell is when the person you are meets the person you could have been." I remember seeing this like 5-6 years ago and having a real moment of reckoning. I was like, if I keep doing what I've been doing, how am I going to feel in like 10 years? I'm going to feel so disappointed. I'm going to feel like I've wasted time trying to protect myself, not wanting to ruffle any feathers, instead of taking chances and having like epic stories about the path I've been on. That was one of the main motivators for me to step out of a passive role and into a very much active one where I'm being decisive and I have conviction about where I'm going. But in order to do that, willingness is not enough because we're working with a bunch of unconscious forces, all the neural pathways in your brain that you have been conditioned to take for years and years and years that lead you to repeating the same patterns without you even noticing. That's why my new program is not just a place where you're going to be told, come on, you can do it. That's just shallow positive thinking that your unconscious doesn't believe. So we're just performing confidence. Instead, what we're going to do in my new program is focus on developing the skills that are going to help you embody confidence. Not just like as a mindset concept, but feeling it in your bones. The other day, one of my mentors said that you develop confidence by doing something that makes you want to quit every day and not quitting. This resonated with me so deeply, and it's very much in alignment with how I designed the Confident Nerd School. I believe that we develop mental and emotional strength by putting ourselves in harm's way and seeing that we survive, seeing that we are stronger than we thought we were. To me, confidence is not the belief that you can do anything. It's the belief that you can, whatever happens, you can figure it out. That if you try something and it doesn't go according to plan, that's okay. You can stand up and try again without beating yourself up. That's confidence to me. And how we're going to get there in the Confident Nerd School is by spending the first 3 months getting really, really clear on who you are. So reintroducing yourself to yourself instead of the person that you've been playing. the masks you've been wearing. We're going to remove all of the masks, reconnect with your inner voice, with what really matters to you, what lights you up, your biggest strengths, your most wonderful qualities, and figure out where you're going, where you want to go, what's the unique contribution you can make in the world that's going to make you feel proud, that's going to make you feel like in your zone of genius, so that you don't look back and think, oh, I was just like a cog in the machine. No. So that's what we're going to spend the first 3 months doing, and then we're going to make like a decision on what we want to focus on first, the first mission we want to go on. We're going to turn everything that we've dreamt up into like an implementation plan. Have a hard time with this long word. Let's just say an action plan instead, that we're going to implement in the last 3 months. The last 3 months are all about trial and error. Trying a bunch of things that are scary to you and seeing what happens. During that time, you will not be left on your own. I will teach you tools to manage your mind and manage your emotions so that you don't freak out, so that you can think rationally with your feet on the ground, and so that you have ways to expand your nervous system capacity to take risks. Instead of feeling like it's a life or death situation, like you have to make the right decision, and if it doesn't work, it's going to be embarrassing, you're going to disappoint a bunch of people. No, we're going to de-dramatize the whole process, and it's going to feel more like a playful science lab. We're all going to be in this together. Because that's the other thing. If in your day-to-day life, you're surrounded by people who make safe decisions, people who are in a stable job that they don't really like, they've got their house, their cars, their kids, their marriage, and they don't really concern themselves with whether or not they're fulfilled, whether or not their life has meaning, they just do what's expected of them, then if that's what you're surrounded by, it's going to be that much more challenging for you to go against the current, for you to question the status quo, because people are going to look at you like you're the weird one, like you're delusional, like you're just about to ruin your life, when that's not the case. You might just have different values. You prioritize living fully and making an impact rather than being comfortable. My clients have told me again and again and again how helpful it is to be surrounded by other people who prioritize growth. It makes it easier for them to open up about what they really want because they're not afraid of being judged, and then acting on those desires because they're not the only ones doing so. The other thing I've been told very often about my group programs is that it's a place to rehearse your truth before having the courage to show up as that version of you in the real world. So if that's something you're curious about, go to selfgrowthnerds.com/school and apply. If you apply before June 1st, so that's Saturday, you're going to get a 90-minute intensive purpose session with me. In this session, we're going to identify the unique contribution you can make in the world through a 90-minute deep dive into the turning points of your personal story, what lights you up more than most, and the areas where you can make the most impact. So just apply before June 1st if you want to have access to this bonus. And once you have applied, you'll know within 3 days if you're accepted, and you can always book a call with me if you want to check in, see if we're a good match before you make your decision. So all the information is at selfgrowthnerds.com/school. And now let's jump into today's topic. We are talking about overcoming people pleasing and making big decisions in your life. This is a super interesting conversation with two of my former clients, Sarah and Jess. They're friends in real life. They're really insightful and funny people. We go deep in this one. They're going to tell you about leaving a relationship after, I think, 18 years. Sarah spent most of her life with her former husband, And Jess moved away from all her people to kind of start over in Hawaii. So they're going to tell you about the hardest parts of taking those leaps, what helped them actually find the courage to do so, what are the beliefs that they had to reframe. They had to completely change their way of thinking in order to be able to do this. And we also talk about the importance of getting to know your needs and being able to advocate for them, even though it makes us feel like we're being difficult. It's going to have a massive impact on the quality of our lives. So that's just a few of the things that we talk about. There's a lot of laughter. There's a lot of introspection. Basically, my favorite kind of conversation. I'm sure you will enjoy it. Let's start by hearing Sarah's introduction. Sarah, go ahead and tell us more about who you are.
All right. Well, hi, everyone. I am based in Newark, Delaware, and I am a recovering perfectionist and people pleaser. And I feel very lucky that I've had Jess and Marie by my side on this journey. So a little bit over a year ago now, I made the decision to separate from my husband. And looking back on the timeline, made the decision to actually go forward with a divorce around this time a year ago. And that has been just one of many decisions on this journey, but it was a big one. And we had been married for 13 years and together for 18. So I had been in this relationship for my entire adult life because I had been with him since I was 17. So it was a really big shift. But we'll get into that later.
We'll get into the nitty-gritty of that giant decision. My God, 18 years. Okay. Yeah. What about you, Jess?
I am currently sitting on the island of Oahu in Hawaii, where I live and have lived for almost 3 years now, which was my big life decision, which was giving up my apartment and my job and my life in Delaware with Sarah. Although it's no reflection on you, Sarah. Didn't leave you. And then, in the middle, probably a year into COVID, I moved out here for, I would say work, but moving to Hawaii is about way more than work. So there was a work opportunity that allowed me to come out here and kind of just turn my life on its head in a pretty big way.
And you went back to school recently as well, didn't you?
Yeah, yes, I did. I'm in a graduate program. I'm about to finish my first year, and so I have 2 years left.
Awesome. I remember, Jess, when we started working together, you had moved to Hawaii not too long ago, and you were struggling to own that you wanted to be there and that you didn't. It was not like a temporary move. I know, like your family and your friends had maybe question marks on their minds, and you were struggling to be unapologetic about your choice. Can you tell us about what was hardest in making that decision and most of all owning it?
Yeah, well, I actually came here telling everyone it was temporary. So that was probably why they thought that. So, and I think I told myself that too, because it felt like such a big move at the time that I was like, I don't know, 6 months will tell me if that's the right thing to do. And it kind of just made it easier for me to do. Like, I took a suitcase or two and I was just like, I just need a couple things. And so I'll be there for a couple of months. And I thought that would help my family and my friends be like, okay, like, this is not so scary. Like, you can undo it, right? It's a decision you can undo. It's like, you can just decide I'm moving back, like, no big deal. But actually in trying to convince them, I convinced myself it was temporary. And when it became not temporary, well, it's really scary because now when people are like, when are you coming back? When are you coming back? It's like, I don't know. never. Like, and who knows? Like, no one really knows how long anything lasts. So it's like, I'm trying to convince them everything's okay, but I convinced everything's okay. And how do I reconcile like what I'm telling people and what I'm telling myself, and what I'm telling people on the island when they ask me, like, you meet new friends and they're like, oh, how long are you going to be here? And you're like, the question mark, as long as I can or feel like it or want to, like, that's the truth, but kind of a complicated truth people I don't know that they don't want to hear, but it doesn't fit in with a narrative of milestones. Like, I'm going to be here for this long, and then I'm going to do this next milestone, and then I'm going to buy a home, and then I'm going to have a child. It was like, I'm not sure. Could be any length of time. Could be for any reason. Because I'm single and don't own property. And so, like, my life's pretty much what I want to make it. And so it was really difficult to make that shift and be like, I'm here for as long as I want to be. I'm here. I also moved, leaving a really stable 9-to-5 job. And I started working for a small business that I'm now part owner of. And so that too is like a really different thing than other people do. And trying to explain to them, like, I don't know what my work looks like. I don't know how long my clients will be here versus somewhere else, or how long I even want to do a job like this. At the time, it was like really scary to leave something stable. And so you just kept, like, every time I talked about it, I would like shave off the edges to make it nice and soft for people to hear or get or understand. But it was doing that to me, and it was taking away my own excitement about it. So it was like, I need to own being here. I need to own having this new exciting adventure. I need to own that it's not going to look like what my friends are doing or what my family thinks I should be doing as one of the oldest in the family. And they're like, we're waiting for you to jump on the timeline. So being in the program and being surrounded by other people who also were questioning what they wanted to do and how they wanted to do it was like really helpful in claiming that space for myself.
Mm-hmm. And when you say being in the program, she means being in the Brave and Bold coaching program that I was hosting. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I hear a lot of different things here. There's for you to tolerate the discomfort of uncertainty, to learn to like emotionally tolerate uncertainty, and also the discomfort that comes with talking about this with others.
Yeah. Explaining yourself when you're not sure you quite understand yourself anyway.
Mm-hmm. What was that like for you, Sarah, in your decision to get a divorce? What was hardest? Did you also have to face explaining to others and trying to justify yourself?
For me, it felt more like I had to do a lot more explaining to myself and to my partner, because we had been in this relationship for so long, and I was convinced that I had really given it all that I could, and that I didn't have anything left to give at the end in terms of trying to fix things. And so a lot of my processing was about, have I done enough? Is there one more thing I could try? Because, and maybe part of that is because I knew people could ask that, like, well, did you try this? Did you try this? So, and I am someone who likes solving problems, and I am someone who likes to fix things. And maybe that's how I got into this relationship in the first place. But, seeing things in me that, things that I needed, and then also things that I thought I could help him with. But regardless, I think in that time, trying to figure out what was the right next step, it was really a lot more about convincing myself that I could do it and that I would be okay, and that he would be okay, because I was also just as worried about him as I was myself in terms of the aftermath.
What were you scared of about the aftermath?
So we were pretty codependent. And so a lot of what I was worried about was what it would be like if we weren't relying on each other for everything. I had given away a lot of my self-agency through the relationship and kind of convinced myself of so much that I thought I couldn't do by myself. And I'm talking, kind of basic everyday things like reliably paying my credit card bill, taking my car to get an oil change, changing a light bulb in the house. And it's not to say that I didn't think I could do those things. It's just that where we ended up in the relationship, everything had to be something we did together and was something that we talked about and coordinated our schedules for, to the point where if it didn't work for him, I felt like I was asking too much. And so telling myself, no, actually, you can just go to Home Depot and bring the old fluorescent light bulb and find the new fluorescent light bulb and put it in the house. And it's actually not that hard and you don't have to overthink it. That's such a small example, but I think it's an example of something that was a little baby step forward. And okay, if I can do that kind of thing, then I can do bigger things.
Mm-hmm. You had to slowly build evidence that you could rely on yourself.
That's right.
I mean, like you said, you spent your whole adult life with this person, so you shaped your identity around being together. And so it's a big leap to be okay, what's my identity when I'm on my own?
That's right.
So interesting. And what else would you say was hard in making that decision? So trusting that you could rely on yourself. Was there anything else? Trusting that he would be okay, that you would be okay.
Mm-hmm.
Or these are the main obstacles?
I would say those were the main ones, and Josh, feel free to chime in if there's something I've already blocked out from the experience. But I would say the other hard thing, in particular in my case, was once we made the decision to separate. I still had to stay in the house for I don't know what the right word is, insurance purposes or something. So then it was living with someone who, decided to no longer be in a relationship, but you're now still in a relationship because you're sharing living space. We had a dog. He still has the dog, and a house. So it was becoming roommates, and kind of grieving the relationship while you're still in the relationship and trying to figure out who I was on my own while I'm still sharing space with this person who has known me as a very particular version of myself.
Mm-hmm.
And showing up to work every day in this transition period where I'm starting to want to figure out what my identity is as this adult single person, and sometimes not even knowing how to show up in that space. I think that's actually kind of a current thing that I'm working through now that I actually am divorced. I will show up somewhere and think, oh, I'm single now, and I'm not actually interested in a relationship at all, to be honest. But when I am somewhere and I no longer have a ring on my finger, I am thinking internally about, how is me showing up as this person impacting the people around me? Because, as a recovering perfectionist and people pleaser, I'm still highly aware of how other people are receiving me.
Can you give an example?
Oh, absolutely. I recently had to go to physical therapy for the tennis elbow that I got while I was moving boxes by myself. So I did it, and I got
Good job.
Yeah. And when I was there, I'm like making friends with the people. I'm very social. I'm hanging out with my physical therapist and we're making jokes. And in my head, there's a part of my brain that's going like, oh, am I flirting? Do they think I'm flirting? And no, I'm just being a kind, funny and like social person. But my brain is starting to tell me all these possible stories about, well, you got to be careful here because this person might misread this, You don't have the safety of the ring anymore. You don't have the kind of like excuse or alibi of, oh, well, I'm in a relationship. So, this can only be platonic.
Mm-hmm. You're learning. It's like you're wearing new hiking boots. You've worn like the old hiking boots for a while. Now you're wearing the new ones and like seeing what you can do with them and how you can playing around with this new identity.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Does anyone see my new boots? Do they see how good I look in these boots? Are people checking out my boots?
Exactly.
Do they see the tan line on my hand? Do they see what used to be there is no longer there?
Oh, you're the master of analogies, Jess. What about you, Jess? What was it like moving to a different country away from everyone that you knew? I'm guessing you also stepped into a new identity.
Yeah, I did. Although it took a little while because moving during COVID, like towards the end of and Hawaii was in lockdown and had restrictions like a lot longer. And so by the time I got here, it's not like no one was in lockdown, but it was still like not a big socialization effort for anyone. And because I work from home and was working remotely, it took a minute for me to meet anyone. But I got to figure out who I was before I met anyone, which is pretty cool. And having that space and in all of this, as both of you know, I learned that I am gluten intolerant. And I had like a very silly crisis over that. Let's not call it silly. It was what it was at the time. Now it's kind of funny, but like I kept saying, like, who am I if I don't just go grab a pizza and beer with people? Like, I don't know who am I. Still struggle when I go to a bar and it's like, what do you want? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, I know what I used to order, and now I don't know what I order because I don't want to have wine right now and going right into a liquor or something. And should I just get a soda because soda's fine too? I love soda. So it's like I'm still a little struggling, but I do remember I was on Bumble BFF trying to make friends, and I went out with I met a girl. We went for coffee. And we were out for like a long time. It was so delightful. She was so great. She's actually one of my best friends on the island right now. And I remember coming back from it and being like, oh my God, I showed up as myself there. Like, I just remember being like, I showed up as new me, and she didn't know anything about me before. And I didn't make excuses for stuff because what do I have? Like, I didn't know her. Like, what do I have to people please in this context about how long I'll be here or whatever? I just remember I took such a big risk. I came back and I was almost like shaking a little, like, oh God, like that was like that was really just me, who I think I am now. And it was like really a significant moment. And like I can't even tell you what I said that was different or how I showed up. I just remembered when I came back, you do that little replay, and I was just like, whoa, I think that I showed up as this me.
Wow.
And that was really, it was really cool.
It's challenging sometimes when you're surrounded by people who've known you for a long time. They mirror like an old version of you back to you. So it can be harder to just own the person that you are becoming. That's why, it can be helpful when you're with new people or when you're in a group like you were just in Brave and Bold with other people who are trying to become like the next version of themselves, like the most courageous version of themselves, because then you can there is no longer this reflection of who you used to be, so it gives you like a space to play and explore, who am I now?
I was just talking to a friend from back home yesterday, and we were talking about this exact issue, and she I will absolutely credit her with this phrase. She was saying, I just want that part of me to be stricken from the record. Like, I just would like to be like, I said that once. Like, I used to be like, whatever, into hiking, and this is not my hiking era. I would like this to be stricken from the record. and we were laughing about it, but it's so true because like it's really hard to change how someone, even just something silly like that, like a bunch of hobbies. It's like, I'm not in my hiking era right now. I'm in my music era.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I would rather be playing my ukulele than taking 8 hours and nearly dying on the ridge of Alamanu where people are constantly being rescued. It's like hiking's a different game here, and I'm not sure I want to play. So it was just an interesting her phrase. But yeah, it's like hard because you actually just like you can't actually strike anything from the record. People are always going to remember what they remember, but wouldn't it be nice if it was just like, I'm not into that anymore?
And that's okay. And that's okay. Yeah. We judge ourselves so harshly for changing. That's so funny. And like what you shared about discovering you were gluten intolerant. It's intolerant, right? Right?
Yeah.
I remember that phase where it's like, well, you're there being like, actually, I have more needs than I used to.
Oh, that too.
And I'm no longer, and I speak for you, but I speak for me and for Sarah as well. When you start owning what you want, you're no longer like the cool, quiet, low maintenance kind of girl.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, I'm here. I have needs. I deserve to feel good. And I
have to send back this order because it will make me sick.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know that I've ever done that in my life before. Having an allergy that's like, I'm sorry, you need to take this because I can't. The dressing on it clearly has, like whatever the thing is. It's like, yeah, and you have to own having that need, or like you meet a bunch of new people and they're all talking about where they want to meet up for something, and you're like, I can't go there because there's nothing I can eat. Or could we not go to the brewery? Could we go to like just a regular bar? Or could we go to the, like I have to assert myself in a way I never had to before. And it's like, I wouldn't say it's scary, but it's different because you don't want to feel like that high maintenance person. But at the same time, like your health is the most important thing. So it's not like you get an option.
Mm-hmm. At first, it feels like, oh, I'm being difficult, but actually, it's just no. I'm just taking care of myself, and that is okay. It's just feels uncomfortable because we have not been used to it.
Yeah, and people's reaction is not ever, "Oh my God, seriously, Jess? Like seriously, we can't go there." They're always like, "Thanks so much for telling me. What is gluten? Where can you go? Is it flour? Is it wheat? Can you drink some beer?" It's always concern and interest. And I give people a large education on gluten, what it is and where it comes from. But no one's ever like, "Oh, please don't invite her again." Actually, normally the next time they're like, "Hey, Jess, would this place work for you?" And it's like, people are just as nice as I am. I don't know why we don't give them credit for being.
And if they were not, it's like, oh, great. Thanks for showing me that you're not someone I want to hang out with.
And right off the bat, so I don't waste any time.
Exactly. What about you, Sarah? In what ways have you had to assert yourself, like Jess was saying, assert yourself more? And we talked about your shark era.
That's right. I went, my coworkers called it Sassy Summer Sarah last summer.
Say that again?
Sassy Summer Sarah.
Sassy Summer Sarah, triple S.
Yes. And then when summer was over, they were like, well, I guess she's just Sassy Sarah and she's here to stay. I was like, yes, I guess so. So, I've seen this meme around the internet a lot, which is like when people pleasers start asking for what they need, they think they've turned into, a monster or whatever, but they're just being normal humans and finally speaking up for themselves. I'm totally butchering that, but I know you both know what I'm talking about.
No, yeah, we know.
Yeah, and that's definitely what it felt like. I'm trying to think of a example, but it would just be. Oh, Jess has an example.
Jess has an example.
What's your mind?
you went to a music festival
Oh yeah, I did.
by
Uh,
yourself.
by myself. Yeah. Okay. So I'm pausing because I'm thinking about like, well, is that really a need? So, we can figure that out later. But um in my former version of myself that I would like to strike from the record, uh, I was under the impression that I couldn't do some things by myself. And this came from a history of being like the baby daughter and, kind of like the one that needed to be protected and like, oh, careful. So I was like, I was and still am fairly risk averse. And in my marriage, like that continued because my partner was happy to, support me in things and go with me to things. And that eventually kind of manifested to worrying about things for me and worrying about things that maybe I wasn't worried about. Jess and I wanted to go paddleboarding one time, like an hour away from where we live, maybe hour and a half. And my partner was worried about the traffic and thought, gosh, I really don't think you all should go if there's going to be a lot of traffic. Like he just poured on all of these worries that I didn't have. And that was a year prior to us separating. But and at the time I was just starting to practice being able to say, like, actually, I think I can handle this. So what Jess is referring to is last summer, the summer after we had separated, I was supposed to go to a concert at a 2-day festival in Virginia with a friend of mine, and she ended up not being able to go. And old me probably would have really considered not going because I can't drive 4 hours by myself, and I can't go get into an Airbnb by myself, and I can't go show up to a concert venue with thousands of people by myself and navigate all of that. And I, kind of going back to some of the things we talked about in coaching, like, sure, those stories were helping protect me from taking a risk and getting hurt, maybe. But those stories were also preventing me from living and really enjoying and participating in life. So I ended up doing all of those things, including driving back at like midnight and calling Jess because of the time difference. I was able to be like, will you keep me awake while I drive home? But what was so great about that whole trip is that it was like more evidence of, no, I can do this. Like every step of the way. Okay, I did the 4-hour drive. Oh, I can do this. I, got into the Airbnb. Oh, I can do this. I walked through the nearby college campus to get dinner by myself. Oh, I can do this. Like I said, I was living in a very always with someone all the time environment. And so to just do basic things by myself was a huge deal. Mm-hmm. And so each step of the way was just another little bit of evidence of I can do this. I can do this.
I'm just nodding my head like crazy here. I might like dislocate my neck if that's actually that's a thing. I love this idea of the stories that used to keep you from living. Like they would protect you, but they would keep you from living. So you went from I can't do this on my own and rewiring that story to become, no, actually I can do this on my own. Watch me. I'm a badass. What are the other stories for both of you that used to keep you from living that you had to rewire?
How much time do we have? I'll give Jeff some time to think, and I will mention some of the ones that I have, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah.
Number one, I don't have to make myself smaller in order to keep other people happy.
Yeah, I mean, that goes with the Jess's gluten story. So what's one way, like one example of how you make yourself smaller to keep people happy?
So I have a big change that I have been working through is being willing to deal with other people's discomfort based on a decision that I make. And I used to really struggle with that. I had a hard time with negative emotions in general from anyone and got very good at accommodating other people and figuring out and anticipating their needs and making that happen so that they were happy. And it didn't matter if, like Jess was saying with her allergy, it didn't matter if somebody actually would have replied, oh, yeah, of course we can do that. I had just really convinced myself that it would be such a burden to them if I asked for the thing that I needed. And unfortunately, part of the reason I felt that way is because that had been reinforced by some people in my life where, you know, if I said I would really like to go get breakfast before we go on this hike because I'm not going to have the energy to do that. And then I end up at the foot of that hill being told it's time to hike. Come on, champ, you can do this. Even though I have not been fed. That is an example of me, you know, accommodating and being really unhappy about it.
Yeah. And then what often happens in those times is we blame other people. But actually it's us that didn't have the courage in that moment to advocate for our needs. And we end up frustrated, sometimes at others, but really we're frustrated at ourselves for not saying, no, this is what I need. And my needs deserve to be met.
Yeah. And I think, unfortunately, for some people, including me, there's a point at which you feel like you have advocated in all the ways that you can, and you just tire yourself out. And it just becomes like easier. It's not really easier, but you start to think it's easier to stay small, to stop advocating. And that was a big mind switch that I had to make, was that no, actually, it's really worth it to keep speaking up or to put yourself in a new place where you no longer have to speak up in that scenario because that scenario doesn't exist.
Yes, exactly. That gives me shivers. Like if you have, because sometimes you have, like you said, advocated for your needs, but you're in an environment where the people don't listen.
Yeah.
And that taking care of yourself in such a situation is being like, well, let me leave. This is not good for me.
That's right.
And I deserve to be surrounded by people who care.
That's right. My needs are not an inconvenience to others. I am not too much. And if I'm treated that way in this environment, I can go somewhere else.
Mic drop. Yeah. There will be people, that's the news story. There will be people who will be more than happy to meet my needs. If it's not you, that's all right. Let me find these people.
That's right. And in some cases, you find that person that's going to meet your needs is you.
Yes. Yeah. But when you know how to meet your needs, you're more likely to attract other people who want to help you with that.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah, my friend just posted a poem. I'll find it. Maybe we can put it in the show notes. And it was something really beautiful that's like, be yourself so that the people who are looking for you can find you.
Yes.
And I loved that.
Yes. To me, that's my recipe for finding the partner that I have now. He's like the partner of my dreams. And to me, that's because I got to know myself so deeply. And then in the dating app, my profile was so specific to what I wanted. Like, you have to be willing to repel most people in order to attract the people that are for you. But in order to be this way, you can't be afraid of rejection constantly. You have to want rejection in order to get like belonging with the people that are going to be, not just the people, but the jobs also that are going to be most aligned with you. What about you, Jess? Oh, go ahead, Sarah.
I just wanted to attribute this quote. So it's poetry by Alex Aubrey, and it says, "Be yourself so the people looking for you can find you."
Sweet. I love it. What about you, Jess? What are the stories that you had to rewire, the stories that were keeping you from fully living?
I think the one that you just discussed, like 100%. And I think on the other side of needs, the story was like I can't attract too much attention, I guess would be the story. Like, it's safer when you don't attract attention, maybe, is the story that was like kind of it. It's safer if you don't attract attention. And like the ways that show up are like hilarious to me. Like, driving my moped makes a lot of noise in the neighborhood. People are gonna look. The bike I have right now, the brakes have gotten changed and they squeak. And I'm like, oh God.
It's like the universe wants you to move around and practice being like, look at me. It's
taking up space. Yeah, taking up some space. Like, when I think about like making music, which is a thing that's so important to me and I love doing, for me, right? Like, I don't like make it. I play music in the terms of play, like in a sandbox. And people hear you when you play music out loud, right? So, or just like when I think about clothes that I wear, and it's like, there's so many nights where I put on something that's so cute. I got these big linen pants, and they're high-waisted, and they're big, and they're not like clothes I normally wear, but I love them. And for a long time, every time I put them on, I was like, wow, you look awesome. Those are super cool. And then I put on jeans and a black t-shirt and I go out to dinner. It's just like, because people will see me. Those pants attract attention. Attention's not safe for whatever reason. And so that's a story that really prevents me from, just those 4 examples, doing things that I like doing. And it's been interesting. And I think that's like in a really just like day-to-day way. But when you think about like decisions you might make or choices and how people might see them, like that, if I don't ride my moped because it makes noise, or if I can't, ride my bike because it squeaks, like, that's so small compared to big things that might happen in my life and choices I might want to make. And so that's a story I'm still like half subscribed to. Like, I know when I haven't quite worn. I did wear the pants this past weekend, so actually I am making progress. And I wore them to an art museum because I was like, everyone will be wearing fun things, and I will not stick out there in these big pants. I will belong. So I subscribed a little bit to the story, but I did the thing, and so I get at least like half credit.
You're slowly but surely rewiring that story in your mind. What's, like, if you think about past Jess and present Jess, what's something that you do now that feels normal, that like one way that you take up space that would have felt super scary for you a few years ago?
I play my ukulele just all the time. Like, I'll do it in the backyard. I'll do it. And in Hawaii, like, people are close. Like, the houses are close. Like, we have a neighbor who practices like a trumpet or something, and we hear him practicing. So it's like, I know people here. And so like, but I do, I used to be like, let me close the door, or let me go in the garage, or I have a keyboard. So it's like, let me put the headphones on and only I can hear it. And it's like in between meetings, I'll just pick it up and play it and
Mhm.
sing. I'll sing to it too.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But part of it is like no one knows what house that's coming from.
The
I have not
mysterious,
brought it to the beach yet. If I bring it to the beach, then
you're like the mysterious sound angel.
I like that. I like that. Yeah, I am. Mysterious music angel. But yeah, I would say that's probably one of them. And another one, which is a bit different, is I really live into what I call my Jersey Jess because I'm from New Jersey and I've got a bit of sass on me. I'm a bit sarcastic. I'm a bit like rough. I mean, when I go home, it's all relative, right? When I go home, it's like, no, she's not tough or like rough around the edges or like sassy. Like she's so mild. But when I'm here in Hawaii, where people are really kind and soft, and I don't want to say genuine, like I'm not genuine, but I'm sarcastic way more. Like I am way more likely to make a joke than I am to like be nice. I don't know how to sound.
Yeah, no, I understand completely what you mean.
Okay, great. Because like, so when I first got here, I started making friends. It was like kind of tiring to like censor that part of myself, to be like, have every conversation be so pure and sweet and nice. Because I'm like, I have 45 jokes lined up and they're not all nice jokes, but like they're about me. So I think it's like I like to poke fun at what's happening with the world. Like I like to make a comment or two, and I have really embraced Jersey Jess lately. I think partially because of the people who I'm surrounded by, right? Like they find her interesting and funny, and because you know, they know me well enough to know that what I'm doing is like I say, sometimes a joke's a joke. Like sometimes I just need to be a comedian for a minute. Like it doesn't make me any less deep or any less caring. But when I first got here, definitely was like, how do I fit in here? Like, how do I be the person that fits in here? And now I'm like, it's too exhausting to not be that part of me. And so right off the bat, I'm going to tell a couple jokes and see how it goes.
Yeah.
Like you're saying, right? It's like, put it right on the profile. I put it right on the profile. Like, I don't take things too seriously.
So the before story is kind of like, I need to figure out how to fit in. And the new story is it's just safe to be me.
Yeah. And when you said like, yeah, you have to accept rejection, and I agree. And also you could say instead of that, like, I just have to, it's just a test. It's just information. They're not rejecting me, it was just information about whether or not this was like a match.
Exactly.
Dating friends is just like dating romantically, right? You're still just looking for people who fit into your life and make it bigger and better. So
yeah. And if someone doesn't want to be your friend, it's not rejection. It's information. So wise. It's information. It's like, oh, okay, well, great. Like, I'm sending you love. Hope you find the friends for you. I'll keep looking for people that match me, and it's all good.
Yeah. Yeah. And also, like, you know, we can be a friend who goes to a yoga class, but maybe we're not a friend who like has a sleepover and we talk all night.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Okay. So you've both given us so many examples of the ways in which you have grown over the last few years and what's helped you make big jumps that are in alignment with your values, that are creating a more fulfilling life for you. Now, I want to hear from you about how has coaching helped you on this journey? How is it useful for you to work with me on this transformation, this path of transformation? Let's start with you, Sarah.
Sure. So I want to tell the story about how you helped me before we even knew each other.
Ooh.
So back in April of 2023, that is when I was feeling like I needed some separation. I needed some space from my partner so that I could think with a clear head about whether or not we could repair, whether or not I wanted to move forward. And I had just decided, I just like actually asked for and got confirmation of the fact that we would have actually start a separation on about April 21st, I would say. And then April 24th, you posted a podcast episode called The Decision to Break Up, episode 115. And I don't think it was that day, that one, Jess sent it to me. I think it could have been, I don't know, 2 weeks after that. But she was just like, hey, this is something that my coach just put out, and I think that it might offer some clarification and things for you to think about. And that was such a helpful episode because there were so many things that you included in that about just like consideration. Like, are you looking for the same things? What do you want in a partner? And I really took that seriously, took it to heart, and started journaling about all of the things that you talked about in that episode. So transitioning into, how you've helped me as a coach, you ask thoughtful questions and push us to think through what life could be like.
Can you say that again? Because the internet connection was a little bit unstable.
Yes, I totally can. You ask incredible questions that help us to push through and think through what could life be like? What is the life that I actually want for myself? What am I putting in my way? What are the stories I'm telling myself that are getting in the way of that life that I actually could have? And what steps could I take to actually get there? I can be a bit dramatic, and I would join our coaching calls ready to tell you the story, ready to entertain you. Jess was talking about her sarcasm. I love sarcasm. I think I could have been a stand-up comedian in another life because I like to entertain people and make them laugh. And I'm happy to do it at my expense. And I would come, to our sessions ready to give you a laugh. And you would help me take that story I was telling myself and pull it apart and really reflect on how can we look at this in a more neutral and objective way that is maybe less funny, but is going to serve you better. And so that was huge. And then also just like the accountability of seeing you, I started out in your Courage to Start New group session, and that was fantastic. And then we moved to one-on-one coaching. And so the accountability of that has been really helpful for me because I know that I wanted to move forward with this life transition. I had already made that decision when I started actually working with you. And I felt like our sessions helped me keep my eye on the prize. It was a tough time. And it was a very emotionally ridden time. And, going through divorce is very exhausting. At least it was for me. And I think you helped me to kind of see that there was a light at the, end of the road. There was a rainbow that I was going to be finding at the end of that storm.
That is worth the struggle.
Mm-hmm. And so you helped me keep the momentum going, which was awesome. And the other thing about your technique in particular is that you are a doodler and you draw things. And I really love those drawings because they connect the brain science and some of the concepts that you bring into your programs that really helps stick in my brain. And so your Care Bear continues to be one of my favorite things. And you can talk about that on another episode or whatever. But there are so many of the things that you taught that like has stuck with me because of the way that you visualize them and explain them.
See, that's so cool. Thanks for sharing all of that. A few thoughts that I want to share is, number one, that episode about breaking up is responsible for so many separations of people I don't even know. I have strangers messaging me on Instagram. Oh, I listened to your podcast and now I know that I want to leave. I'm glad that you found what your truth in the midst of all that. And yeah, what you say about de-dramatizing the stories, because often when we come up with all these stories, it's like, this is the bad person, this is the victim, this is to make it, entertaining. But at the end of the day, it keeps us from seeing reality for what it is and making decisions that are well informed. We're all up in our emotions instead of being grounded in our values. Like, what's important to you and what are you going to do based on that is going to lead you to create something that's much more sustainable long term than if you're always up in your mind drama telling stories.
Yes. And I've been known to live out of my mind drama.
I mean, it's fun. We've got to be able to do both. It's fun to have a rant sometimes, and then we've got to, get back down, put our feet on the ground, and move forward. Thanks for sharing, Sarah.
You're welcome.
What about you, Jess?
I would say the most, one, I loved being in the group of other people who were doing something different. Like, that was just on a base level, just felt really, and I think was part of the reason why I could start showing up new, because those people didn't know me. And so then I would realize the same thing was happening here. So that was huge in just creating a space for me to play with who I was. But your coaching, I would say it was your loving and thoughtful attacks on on my ways of thinking. I read that with the most love because I love to be attacked. I love when someone sees something so clearly that you're like, wow. Like, just talking about like when I was having my sad sob story about no longer eating pizza and beer, and just the way that you would hold up a mirror to say like, that could be the story, but also what else is the story? It's very similar to what Sarah was saying, but like your ability to see through like, I guess, the drama or the humor or the
BS,
the lens we have on it, and call out just like what it is at its core, is really helpful. Because when you ruminate on something, having someone just say, like, I see you spinning. If you stop spinning for a minute, you might see this piece. And if you stop spinning over here, you might see it like this. And it was just always really helpful to come in and be like, I would be so sure, right? Kind of like what you were saying, Sarah. Like, you'd be so sure, like, this is unsolvable, or that this is so unique. That was the other thing about group coaching. You think you're so unique, but we all are humans with the exact same problems, right? Like, there's nothing different about us. We all just want to be loved and accepted and feel safe. And you're like, no, my issue is so different than that person who's deciding if they're going to blah, blah, blah. And you're like, oh my God, it's exactly the same.
That's what it
so just like, yeah, bringing it to its core, I guess, right? You're bringing it down to its core. And so, you're like, oh, it's not about pizza and beer. It's about, I have needs I now have to express in front of people. And what will that mean? And yeah.
Go ahead, Sarah.
Okay, so just a quick funny story about my experience in the group coaching is, I would tell myself all these stories about why I couldn't do something, right? Like, that's too hard. That's going to be too much trouble. It's going to inconvenience someone else, blah, 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 blah. And then I would watch someone else basically express those same, all those limitations on a call. And I would be like, are you kidding me? Of course you can do that thing. Why are you letting any of that get in the way? And it was just so funny because I would be like, Oh, yeah. I probably people, everyone else is saying the same thing to me when I'm going on my story about how that's too hard and I can't do it and I'm not sure. And yeah. So that is one of the things that coaching was, the group coaching especially, that was really cool to like reflect on how you're letting your own ego get in the way when you watch it happen to other people. Or, maybe it's not your ego, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. I remember Flo in the group saying at one point, "This is not what I wanted to hear, but this is what I needed to hear."
Yes, a well-delivered attack.
Because sometimes, I mean, when we're with friends, like it's our friend's job to complain with us, to be like, "You're right, it's hard and it freaking sucks." But then it's your coach's job to be like, yeah, it's hard and it sucks. And now what? Like you have more power and more resources than you think you can. So
yeah.
If you go back
and you do that job well.
Yes, you do. And if you go back in my text thread with Jess, you will see many a time when one of us is saying, Marie really gave me she was really rude today. And rude is our like phrase.
That's what we would say.
Yeah.
It's like we would like report on something and be like, wasn't that rude? Like, yeah, super rude. But like, what you gonna do with it now?
Oh, that's so true. Thanks for your
highest compliments. Saying how rude you are.
Say that again, Sarah.
That it's one of our highest compliments to call you rude, because it's our way of saying like she really pushed us into thinking about something in the way that we really needed to.
Yeah. And I have to remind myself after those kinds of coaching calls, like my job is not for to be loved. Is to help them grow past their limitations. So it's okay if they don't like me for a few days.
Oh no, we like it. You like you a lot. I can reassure you, you are loved and rude.
Thank you. The coach also feels, also sometimes has moments where they're like, "Oh no, was I too hard?" Okay, thank you both so much. Before we go, I would love to hear if you have any book recommendations for all the self-growth nerds listening. Anything that you've read, or maybe a podcast that you listened to recently that was thought-provoking, that you could share.
Mostly I have to read a lot of textbooks right now, so my fun reading is at a minimum. But on my last break, I just read, I think it's like The History of Feminism in 11 Fights. I think the title is something like that, and I might have to get back to you on exactly the title, but it's broken down, and I think it's 11, and it's like about play. We talk about like the soccer teams, and it's about the vote, and about suffragists. So they break it down into like 11 categories, and they tell the story of the fight. Like divorce, they tell the story of like the first woman to try to get a divorce, and it was really, I mean, I had to do it in small sips, but it was really great.
And very much in alignment with your work. Jess works in conflict resolution.
I do, yeah.
Love that.
Good fights, right? Good fights to get to something better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What about you, Sarah?
So I feel like I have not been I have not been like in a place to receive new information lately. But so I went back in my Goodreads and looked for one that I had read while I was going through all of this. So I'm going to recommend Young Pueblo's Lighter, Let Go of the Past, Connect with the Present, and Expand the Future.
Love that. I read that one. Really good. And it's okay not to be, you've got to own that right now you might not be in like a personal growth reading era. Like Jess is no longer in a hiking era. You're in a, what era are you in, Sarah, currently?
It was not a pause for dramatic effect. I had not considered this at all.
Should I like sing a little elevator waiting song?
Yeah.
Oh, that's Baby Shark. That's
Oh,
not.
I was in my shark era. So that's probably where that came from.
That's the unconscious.
After
Yeah.
that, I was in my sloth era because we decided that after sharking for a while, I was tired and I just wanted to take a nap. I think I kind of feel like I may be in like a blossoming.
Love it.
I'm gonna have a conversation later this week about thinking about if I want to go back to school to get a doctorate in education.
Sweet, you too.
Yeah, and I just said yes to serving on a leadership board. So I feel like I'm in like a saying yes to the things I want to say yes to, and saying no to the things that I want to say no to era. What's that called? Boundaries? I'm in my boundary era.
We'll come up with a catchy name.
Yeah, sounds good.
What about you, Jess? What era are you in?
I'm in my reliving my 20s era.
Meaning?
You're a bit irresponsible as far as that's possible for me. I was staying out a little late, maybe making some mistakes, like turning in an assignment late. Maybe it all just maybe I'm just I'm just reliving my 20s. Just like, you know what, you drink a little too much sometimes. You express yourself. You put fun before work sometimes. And like, I mean that like the most, unfortunately, I mean that in such a light way because I am an adult who has a lot of responsibilities. But as far as I can, you know what, mistakes happen, they're possible. And I probably need to make a couple more of them before it becomes consequential. So I'm just going to relive my 20s a bit.
Back in your 20s, and Sarah, you're blossoming and boundaried.
That's great.
All right. Thank you so much to you both for coming on a podcast. This was such a fun chat. And I already look forward to seeing you again.
Thanks, Marie, for having us. This was so fun, especially being just a bit away from it to reflect. Thanks for that, too.
Okay, that's it for today. Weren't they wonderful? I love them so much. Now, right after we stopped recording, Jess was telling me about an online course she created with her business partner all about conflict resolution. Jess is a trained conflict resolution expert, and she believes that these skills to communicate with others kindly, courageously, and with curiosity are super important when you're going through a big change in your life that's going to impact those around you. So check it out. It's called Wiser Conflict. You can find it at wiserconflict.com. If you've got something coming up that you think is going to ruffle some feathers, it might be super useful for you. And lastly, reminder to apply for the Confident Nerd School before June 1st if you want to have access to the bonus, the free purpose session, 90-minute intensive purpose session. Apply before June 1st if the program is interesting to you. It's at selfgrowthnerds.com/school. There's all the information there. There's the curriculum. There's the price, the logistics, what's included. Go and have a look. Okay. Have a beautiful week, everyone, and I will talk to you soon. Bye-bye. If you love what you're hearing on the Self-Growth Nerds podcast and you want individual help finding a new direction for your life and developing the courage to make your dreams a reality, you have to check out how we can work together on selfgrowthnerds.com or message me on Instagram at selfgrowthnerds. My clients say they would have needed that support years ago. So if you're tired of feeling like you're wasting your life, don't wait. Get in touch now, and I cannot wait to meet you.